This is Dan Dix here reporting for Press for Truth, and according to Canada's National Observer, climate change is the 21st century's greatest threat to human health. Not governments, which was responsible for over 250 million deaths in the 20th century. No. You, in fact, are the problem and the greatest threat to human health moving forward. Now, this is what is being pushed by the majority of politicians here in Canada, but not all of them are towing this line. Not all of them are spewing this rhetoric. We have Maxime Bernier of the People's Party of Canada stating that there is no climate emergency, no reason to panic or be anxious, no consensus supporting climate alarmism, no justification to regulate and tax ourselves to death here. He goes on to say Libs can only sell their carbon tax lie if they lie. The carbon tax, if they lie. Lie number one, you'll get back more money. Lie number two, it's a price on pollution. Meanwhile, CO2 is not pollution. It's what comes out of your mouth when you breathe and what nourishes plants. Now, this opinion of Maxime Bernier has led to environmental groups now being warned that some climate change ads could be seen as partisan during the upcoming federal election. Elections Canada has warned environmental groups that running ads about the dangers of climate change during the upcoming federal election campaign could be deemed partisan activity. So we're going to talk about all of that in this video, and also how some of this idiocracy can run amok when left unchecked, like is happening in other parts of the world, like in the UK, where this woman was just arrested for putting out recycling in the wrong garbage bags. And we now also have this out of Iceland. Iceland holds a funeral for a giant glacier that just melted after a record heat wave. Yes, folks, that's just how bad things are getting. So we're going to cover that and much more. But before we do, I'd ask that you check us out at subscribestar.com/pressfortruth. This is like a Patreon alternative where you can subscribe here for a monthly contribution, and any amount that you pledge per month will be greatly appreciated. It goes to help keep this channel alive. As you know, we are being greatly censored, heavily shadow banned. We've been demonetized. They simply do not want this type of information to be seen by the masses. But with your help, we can continue to put this type of information out there, exposing the lie, for example, that climate change is the 21st century's greatest threat to human health. So let's take a look at this article that is now banning certain environmental groups from engaging in what they call partisan politics in the lead up to the federal election. An Elections Canada official told groups in a training session earlier this summer that since Maxime Bernier, the leader of the People's Party of Canada, has expressed doubts about the legitimacy of climate change, any group that promotes it as an issue in its paid advertising could be considered partisan and might need to register as a third party with Elections Canada. Goes on to say here, Tim Gray, executive director of the advocacy group Environmental Defense, says that registering as a third party is onerous for groups like his and could draw unwanted attention from the Canada Revenue Agency, which prohibits charities from engaging in partisan activity if they want to maintain their tax-exempt status. He says it's discouraging that Environmental Defense and other charities might need to revise their messaging about climate change during the campaign period because one party has chosen to deny the existence of this basic fact, he calls it. Obviously, climate change is real, he said. Almost every credible institution on the planet is telling us to get our act together and do something about it. Last fall, the United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, made up of hundreds of scientists from around the world, said if the world doesn't cut global greenhouse gas emissions in half by 2030, the planet will face irreversible, catastrophic consequences. Well, why on earth would we care what the IPCC has to say when we know that this whole thing has been exposed over 10 years ago in what was known as Climategate, when the climate research unit emails were hacked into at the University of East Anglia? I exposed this over 10 years ago. Back in November of 2009, in this video, Press for Truth assaulted by security thug while covering Al Gore event / Climategate, where I showed you this, where the CRU, also known as Climategate, began in 2009 with the hacking of a server at the Climate Research Unit at the University of East Anglia by an external hacker, copying thousands of emails and computer files, the CRU documents, and spread them to various internet locations several weeks before the Copenhagen Summit on Climate Change. And as I covered in this video, the scientists involved with this IPCC, Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, were fudging the numbers and falsifying the data when it comes to alleged CO2 being the cause and human beings being the cause of climate change. Yes, the climate is changing, but the question is whether or not this is being created by human beings. And as I said, this was exposed over a decade ago, that the IPCC and others involved were fudging the numbers. And Bernier is just being a voice of reason here, stating that this indeed is not the case. He says here, there is no climate emergency in this country, he said in a speech in June. He also disagrees that carbon dioxide, which experts say is responsible for 3/4 of greenhouse gas emissions, is bad. He says CO2 is not pollution, he tweeted. It's what comes out of your mouth when you breathe and what nourishes plants. And indeed, he is absolutely right about that. I would strongly encourage people, if this is new information you're coming across for the first time, you've just eaten up the man-made climate change lie, I would encourage you to check out this film. It was put out in 2007 called The Great Global Warming Swindle. This is a fantastic documentary. It just over an hour long, so it's not long, and it really breaks it down. A lot of scientists, a lot of experts explain exactly the correlation between climate change and CO2. And as it turns out, the connection is not quite like how Al Gore painted the picture back in his film An Inconvenient Truth. So I'll leave a link to this in the description below. Definitely check it out, guys. We have to educate ourselves about this stuff. Otherwise, it leads to complete idiocracy and insanity. Like I said, as we see here in the UK, we got women being arrested for putting recycling in the wrong colored garbage bags. A woman was arrested and locked up for dumping 60 rubbish bags of the wrong color outside her home over a period of 22 days. This lady has 3 kids, so it may sound like a lot of garbage, but when you have 3 kids, you produce a lot of garbage. Prosecutors said the change from black to orange and clear bags from recycling had been clearly publicized, but Lindsay Webb, 34, from Ipswich, carried out putting it out in the black bags, as replacement ones were never delivered to her flat. They were supposed to give her the replacement bags. She never got them. What else is she supposed to do with her stuff? She was detained for failing to appear in court after breaching the Environmental Protection Act 4 times outside her home in March. The article goes on to say the reason why she didn't show was because she never received any notice of a summons that she was supposed to appear in court at all. She was just one day scooped up and arrested and detained. It's just insanity. She's now been given a 6-month conditional discharge after appearing before a magistrate via video link from the police station. She's been ordered to pay a £50 fine to the council. And it goes on to say she had left fallen afoul of the bin collection changes, which came into force in March and prohibited those with no storage place to dump their black bags outside. Prosecutor Richard Essex said the change from black to orange and clear bags was widely publicized and residents were told to get in touch for new stock. But she says when she asked for the new bags, they never did arrive. It says the black bags chucked out by Lindsay were flagged by a passing warden who saw 10 bags dumped on the pavement. So, this lady was fined and actually detained because this is how crazy it leads to. This is how insane it gets to. A warden walking by sees the wrong color bags and he wants to snitch on this lady for not doing her part to reduce carbon emissions. You want to see just how crazier it can get? Take a look at this, guys. Iceland holds a funeral for a giant glacier that melted after record heat wave. Iceland held a funeral for its first glacier loss to climate change on Sunday amid poetry, moments of silence, and political speeches about the urgent need to fight climate change. Icelandic officials, scientists, and activists and others bowed goodbye to the Öyküçükul ice sheet in west central Iceland. You can't make this stuff up. It goes on to say here, Mr. Sigurdsson, I believe he's a climatologist, said that while it was Iceland's first glacier to disappear, all of the nation's ice masses will be gone in 20 years from now. It says they brought a death certificate to this event. While residents reminisced about drinking pure water thousands of years old from the glacier, the symbolic death of the glacier is a warning to us, and we need to take action, says the former Irish President Mary Robson. We see the consequences of the climate crisis, Icelandic Prime Minister said. She said, we will make climate change a priority with Nordic leaders and German Chancellor Angela Merkel to meet in Reykjavik on Tuesday. We have no time to lose. She added, I know my grandchildren will ask me how this day was when I didn't do enough. You know what? I hope my grandkids look back and see this as a fork in the road moment too, where they say, I'm glad you didn't take the Kool-Aid, Grandpa. I'm glad you didn't buy into this nonsense lie that climate change is the 21st century's greatest threat to human health. I'm glad, you exposed the Climate Research Unit East Anglia hacking Climategate controversy, back in 2009 when people were still saying this is a major issue. And honestly, guys, I'm glad for guys like Maxime Bernier of the People's Party of Canada taking the stance outside of everyone else, facing being ostracized by the media for this position. No, he's taken the side of truth and rationality, and he's done his due diligence and his homework. It's interesting they're trying to say that now if you do this, it's a partisan issue. Bernier actually responded to that himself. Talking to Elections Canada, he says, interpreting a bad law as best it can, but this rule is still absurd. Not because we're the only party with a different perspective, which climate alarmists believe is not legitimate, but because it's arbitrary, draconian, and cannot be applied consistently. So he's a free market guy. He understands that this is draconian coming from Elections Canada, and it's ridiculous. But at any rate, he's going to continue to suggest that man-made climate change is nonsense. And I know a lot of people are going to try to combat that, but in the lead up to the federal election, they may not be allowed to do so, with ads costing over $500, as it'll be seen as a partisan issue. So, just wanted to bring that one to your attention, guys. Don't buy up the hype. Don't fall into the idiocracy like people in Iceland are and people in the UK are. Watch this film, The Great Global Warming Swindle. If you're skeptical about the things I'm saying here today, give this film a try. These are experts who explain it far better than I do, so I'll leave a link in the description below. Strongly encourage you to check it out. Once again, I'd also ask you to check us out on Subscribestar. It's a Patreon alternative where you can sign up for a monthly reoccurring contribution if you do appreciate our efforts here at Press for Truth. So I'll strongly encourage you to check that out. Links will be located in the description below as well. So that's all for today, guys. Please click the thumbs up button if you appreciated the information I'm spreading in this video. Share this video as well with your friends and family. Let them know that they're trying to brainwash us here under the climate change idea that, you are the problem. Meanwhile, as I said in the beginning of this video, governments are the biggest killers and the biggest threats facing human health moving forward. So let's never forget that. So that's all for today, guys. Once again, click the thumbs up button, leave a comment, subscribe to us here if you have not yet already, and stay tuned. We're going to have more video reports coming soon. This is Dan Dix reporting for Press for Truth. We all want truth. The truth will set you free.